So here we are at Sword of Rome, fifth turn, beginning. I haven't gotten anywhere, but I started to wonder about this dark brown region of the game turn track. What's up with that? Well, I'm not someone who really wants to page through all the rules looking for this, as you may realize by this point. So I look at the obvious places. How to win. Well, there's a game end victory. Unfortunately, it just says at the end of the game. Okay. Well, there are other places I could find this, maybe. Like over on the map. Well, doesn't seem to be here under victory spaces. That makes sense. That's not it. And there doesn't seem to be anywhere else under the map that might even remotely have it. So then I look at the sequence of play. Okay. Well, we have a scoring phase, and we have a reinforcement phase, and some other stuff. It might be there. So I work my way down there. And let's see. We got a victory check. If the game is over, determine game end victory, 4.3. Well, that refers me back to this. It doesn't tell me where the game ends. And I look towards the back of the rules, and there's nothing about it there. Look at the 5-player game, thinking maybe that's an expansion there. No, there's nothing there. I look at clarifications, etc. There's just nothing. Maybe it's hidden somewhere in the rules, maybe it's not. But I find this kind of disturbing. I'm assuming the game always ends on turn 9. But then why is that dark? Hey, maybe somebody can tell me. Anyway, we'll go to play. We're starting with the Greeks because the Etruscans got first choice on who gets to start this turn. Both they and the Carthaginians are at 0 victory points. You can't go lower than that. And so we're going to go there from there. But the Greeks and the Gauls are at 10 victory points. That's only 2 from winning, but it's kind of hard to win this game. The Greeks are definitely in a position where it looks like they may not be able to continue gaining many points. They're down 1, 2, 3 points with a questionable place here, and they might gain one, whatever. And they're up 1, 2, 3, 4, and they might gain another one up there. So it looks like they might be able to hold even or even gain a point or two, maybe. But I would guess that people are going to stop them. If we look at the Gauls, it's tough for them to pull off more than a point a turn or 2 points a turn. And again, with them in such a location on the victory point chart, I think everybody's going to oppose them. That leaves it to what? The Romans. And the Romans seem to have a growth potential that's stronger than any other player. Now this, obviously, everybody else is kind of aware of this too, but there's the, do I worry about the threat of the moment, the Greeks and the Gauls, if I'm a Carthaginian or the Samnites, or do I just hand it to one of them by concentrating maybe on the Romans or something? Hard call. Yeah, right. So it looks like as the game has been going so far, the Romans are able to gain a little bit at a time, while the threat de jour is being handled. And I know at the very least the Samnites are not happy about this. They felt kind of shafted by the Romans, but right now, mainly because of the Etruscan issue, and the Gauls were also involved in that very heavily. But right now, the Samnites are up 1 from Roman territory, and as long as they can kind of maintain a peace with the Romans, they may not want to push too hard. So it's really a tough call right now, and we'll see how it falls out because the diplomacy is really the key at this point. I think Carthage is very clearly anti-Greek. They have no other option. They have to regain their territories, or else they have penalties all game, especially the Sicilian territories. But the Samnites are in more of a kingmaker position, where they can choose, do they want to help the Romans win, or are they just going to start patting their own nest at this point? And I got to think real hard on that one. So the Greeks opened up by moving up to Olbia. They didn't take it yet, and the Carthaginians attacked the Greeks down here in Calcoene, and they won, and they got control of it that way. The Romans attacked the Gauls in Capua. They almost lost the battle. Their die roll wasn't good, but they played this cool card. It's a 3-point card, but it allows them to re-roll their own dice. Awesome, huh? Ended up winning the battle. The Gauls fell back into Capua, and the Romans are besieging them there. The Romans got to take 2 political control changes, and there wasn't much to take. They could, of course, increase their own, but instead they did harm to a couple Gallic victory point locations, which, will... it helps force the Gauls to have to do something other than try to win the game. They have to try to break even now in terms of their own victory points. They have to get those back. They're down 3 right now, and there's no way they're going to make that many points up. So their main goal is going to be go back and try to restore their own territories. Of course, if they get plunder counters, they can use those to buy back their territories, which is kind of cool too. And to finish things up for the round, the Gauls pulled back. Hopes to convert territory, and then the Samnites played mercenary switch side, grabbed a couple of Greeks out of Tarentum, and they get them as their own troops, which is kind of cool. Okay, let's sweep around for the second round, which is just finished. The Greeks opened things up. What did they do? They played, I believe, yeah. They played a new leader down in Tarentum with some additional troops. Again, they're going for the gold. They think if they can't win this turn, they're done, which they thought the last couple turns, but they definitely feel like they keep gambling everything. And this turn, they probably can't win, but they're going to try. The Carthaginians made a landing here at Lillybecum, and they're beginning a siege there, which means the Greeks have to respond somehow or another. Let's go to the Romans. The Romans, they charged up, destroyed through an overrun. Sorry about the shaking. The Gallic army up here at Populomunum, it was unable to withdraw, and then began a siege in Pisae. That makes the Romans look really strong and started scaring people. So the Gauls activated the Vasci to actually besiege Rome. And then the Samnites responded by playing the domestication card, which removes a Gallic combat unit, and removed the one up here, which could have tried to restore order to one of their victory point cities. So there we've gone around, and I finally played one of these chits. I don't know if I cheated before, I don't think so, but at least I know what they're for. I forgot about them entirely. After 3 rounds, Thurii, the Greeks moved there, planning on converting it, trying to keep their victory point levels up. Carthaginians failed in their siege of Lillybecum. The Romans, what the hell did the Romans do? Honestly, I'm not quite sure. Oh yeah, the Romans finished their siege of Pisae. The Gauls activated the Vasci again and conquered Rome. And last but not least, we moved the Samnites up, and they're trying to regain some of their territory. None of that's worth anything, but they want to try to carve out a way back to the Etruscans because they don't think they can win without both. And once again, the Vasci moved, and we're done. Okay, done with the fourth round, and what happened? Damned if I know. The Greeks, they used a 2-point power card to convert Thurii and Olbia, 2 victory point spaces that they now own. Thurii is kind of hard because that only remains theirs. That'll go neutral if they pull their troops out of there and don't build a connection up. So like Heraclea would be a good connection for them. The Carthaginians succeeded in their siege of Lilybaeum. The Romans attempted the siege of Capua, but the Samnites played a bad auguries card that gets removed from the game and prevented the activation. So Rome is a little less secure at this point, and they lost their capital. So that's going to be problems for them. The Gauls. The Gauls played Gallic Mercenaries Go Home, which took a couple of points off of all things, the Messina garrison. That's going to prevent the Greeks. The Greeks were about ready. So the Carthaginians won their siege with battering rams. It's only a 1-point card, and they can not only get a siege off of it no matter what, but they could, if they play it as an event. But by spending mercenaries, and they spent 1, they get pluses to the die roll on their siege. The Greeks now no longer have. They had parity of troops, and they were going to probably make an attack to see if they could take Lilybaeum back. Of course, that's kind of risky, but again, they're trying to gamble it all on this turn because they don't think they can win after this. Their position is really, really questionable. But having those Gallic troops go away is going to make that harder. And then, what do we got here? Ah, yes. And the Samnites just played to control the space that they added. You know, they're trying to rebuild their territory to some extent, and they're not quite sure how to do that. But there is a victory point space next to them, and they may just go storming into there and try to rebuild themselves against the Romans. We'll see what happens. And then to the 5th round, the Greeks played and increased some of their support in their cities, making a last stab for Lilybaeum at 1-2 odds. Seemed unreasonable. Maybe they can eke something out still. Carthaginians moved forward, moved to Panoramus. If they survive, and they probably will, I don't think it's possible they can die completely. They have 3 strength points there. They'll convert that. And I think that means the Greeks hold still at 10. Romans succeeded in their siege of Capua, defeating all the Gauls who were there. The Gauls turned around and moved up to grab one of their cities back, so they don't lose too many points this turn. They're going to lose 1, as I see it. So they're not closer to victory. They're falling behind. And finally, the Samnites moved forward and grabbed Praeneste. And that is going to open up war between Rome and the Samnites. The Romans were trying all along to convince the Samnites, look, you know, we can be okay, we can be friends. That one's gonna blow it away, and it's the Samnites who have the most to lose from it. But Rome's cut in several pieces. One down here, one down here, a couple up here. And it's kind of difficult for them right now. You know, if they leave any of their borderlands, they're going to expose themselves to enemies. If they don't leave borderlands, then they end up leaving this stuff exposed. So it's going to be tricky for them. Alright, I'll sweep up the turn and then close this out. So here we are at the beginning of turn, or at the end of turn 5, beginning of turn 6. Still don't know what those dark ones were for. But the Gauls failed to survive here. I think everything else was converted. That was going over. And we've got some reinforcements in play. The Greeks reinforced here at Messina. They removed a lot of their leaders. And they owe a point of loyalty from him, which I'll take off. Because they no longer hold the cities, particularly Bicum. They removed leaders all over the place and went down to their minor leaders. Their goal is to try to hold on. They didn't fall back any, they didn't gain any. Maybe if they get lucky, they can still pull out a victory. The Gauls, those were the Greeks, I may have said Gauls. The Gauls, on the other hand, did fall back a couple spaces because of the cities that they don't have. And they didn't do any pillaging this turn, so they're on the way down. Neither the Samnites nor the Carthaginians have advanced. They're both still at 0 victory points. Now, Carthage is losing victory points still officially. They're still down 2. The Samnites, I think, are only down 1. Yeah. They have 3 victory point Samnite spaces, 2 Roman spaces, but they're missing 3 victory points over from the Etruscans. And they really do need to help fix that. I believe the Romans gained a point, even though they lost Rome. I have more than one. Looks like they gained a couple points. Let me see. They went up 1, 2, down 2 here, so they're at 0. Down 1 more, they're at -1, 0. They gained 2 points. So they're still doing pretty well, even though they lost Rome. But the world is seeing which way things are turning, and pretty much everyone except Carthage is very anti-Roman right now. The Greeks can't do a lot about the Romans. They're going to fight Carthage as hard as they can and maybe try to connect things up. But nobody's really taking the Greeks too seriously at this point. They're clearly... they reached their apogee. No more Desperate Times cards, and not a lot going for them. And now a resurgent Carthage that's going to get a full hand because they regained their victory point cities in Sicily. So it's really up to the Samnites and the Gauls to combine against Rome. And they probably will form an alliance. Or maybe not. They didn't do it this turn. There was no value to it. And there may be no value next turn. And the Gauls have their own problems. They've got the Transalpine Gauls up here. They've got victory point cities that they're losing value on. It's kind of tough to convince them, gee, you ought to start taking hits to slow the Romans down. They're going to have to do that, I think. But it's still a hard call. And the Samnites alone just aren't strong enough for this. Alright, time to zip this guy up.